Coming up on CTV News, Christchurch Police warn quake-damaged homeowners and fresh water supplies for Canterbury. Welcome to CTV News. Christchurch Police are urging householders to keep an eye on their neighbourhoods and to ensure their homes are well secured following a spike in burglaries.
Christchurch Police are urging people to ensure their homes are well secured, particularly unoccupied quake-damaged homes. The warning comes after an increase in nighttime burglaries in some southern suburbs last weekend. Senior Sergeant Steve Bothamley of the Christchurch Police says the spike in night break-ins was noticeable. Last weekend there were around 40 burglaries in the area, including Ilam and Riccarton, but particularly in Hallswell, with many of them occurring at night.
We had a substantial increase in the number of burglaries that we traditionally have, and we've thrown a few resources that way to try and find the people responsible for it. To that end, we're also just asking that people become aware and look after their properties, take care to locking doors and windows when they don't need to leave them open, taking keys out of door locks, making sure the cat flaps people can't reach through and get keys, and just taking note of what's happening around them, whether there's suspicious people or cars in the area, and if they see anything they're not quite sure of, to give us a ring. Senior
Sergeant Bothamley says over the next couple of weeks there will be extra patrols in these areas, particularly in weekend day and night shifts.
Yeah, we've thrown the trust units, the police from out of town that are here helping on Operation Earthquake. They're being more vigilant and patrolling the areas more often, so there's a lot of high visibility police presence. We're also throwing our own resources that way and encouraging our staff and just informing them when these offences are occurring and where we want them to be.
A leaflet drop in southern suburbs this week will be reminding residents about steps they can take to keep their homes secure and to report any suspicious behaviour to police. Police are also urging people to be aware of quake-damaged homes being targeted.
Yeah, that is part of it. We know that some of the houses that have been targeted have been left vacant because of the earthquake, and unfortunately some of them are a little bit insecure because of the damage that they've received. So yeah, there's a combination of factors here. I think it may be because people have an opportunity, and that opportunity is presented by some lax security on people's behalves, but also people may not be home for long periods of time due to increased travel distances or timing on the road, and so houses are left vacant for a little bit longer than what they traditionally may be.
Property being targeted includes wallets, handbags, laptops and electronic devices, as well as mountain bikes being stolen from garages.
The main message is just for people to be vigilant and take care of their properties and look after themselves and their neighbours, and just to ring us if they see anything suspicious or something they're not sure of. Even if they just phone us and we can make that decision as to whether we attend.
Police will be following up any reported burglaries with detailed forensic examinations.
The city needs more water supplies as far as fresh water is concerned, with a question mark over some of the Christchurch wells.
Over 50 of the city's 153 wells were knocked out by the earthquakes, and while a few have been repaired with a reduced flow, many others have been totally destroyed.
Well, basically this is another new well below the recognised fourth aquifer Christchurch. Unfortunately, along with a lot of other wells for the City Council, it has suffered some damage during the earthquakes, and with this well in particular it has filled up with fine sediment in the bottom, and so at the moment the process is to try and remove that fine sediment out of the bottom of the well so that it can go back into production shortly.
Many of the wells that are serviceable still need to have silt removed.
What it is doing is basically surging, what is called surging the well. It is drawing sediment, water in and out through the screen at the bottom to try and remove that fine sediment from around the outside of the screen. If we don't do that, then the water supply system will intake that fine sand into it, and it will not be particularly good for that system.
The flow of water from the pipe gives the driller an indication of what's happening below.
It gives an idea of how much water is available in those deeper aquifers, which are largely unexplored. As I say, there are only a relative few wells that have been drilled below that recognised fourth aquifer. and some of the new wells are down towards 200 metres deep now.
A new well, 185 metres deep in Lake Terrace Road, is giving a flow of drinkable water of 120 litres a second. Meanwhile, there's still a call to use water wisely so it keeps coming out of the tap as we want it. The next cup of coffee could depend on it.
Houses in Christchurch are selling despite contrary reports.
I believe there's around about 10,000 houses that are going to be serious problems and are probably going to be condemned. There's probably another 15,000, perhaps up to 20, that require significant work. But then that probably leaves to the order of 100,000 that are in reasonably good condition and just minor things, minor obstacles that don't prevent a sale. So that there's a really good pool there. And also in between there are houses that have come out of things very, very well, but the street service is still to be connected, and so it'll be take some time before they're ready to go to the market.
If you're selling your house, what are the processes that you have to go through now that you wouldn't have had to go to pre-earthquake?
I'm not sure that there's any real process that a seller needs to go through. Although it is advisable to have an engineer's report available and as much information that one can have to ensure, provide assurance to the buyer that that it's reasonable for them to enter into a deal.
Okay, so what about people coming to Christchurch? You know, they were moving to Christchurch anyway for a job or for whatever. Is it hard for them to find a house in Christchurch?
No, there's a good volume of properties on the market. The market stopped pretty much on February the 22nd and stopped for a fortnight. There was no paper advertising. That stopped, and then the advertising restarted and the sales started again. And so those sales, surprisingly in March, there were over 300 sales signed up in March. Now a lot of those are conditional sales, so they take time to finalise, and so they won't show up in the statistics, sales statistics, probably till about the end of May as confirmed sales.
Coming up after the break, keeping fit. Welcome back. Another idea for Christchurch's rebuild.
We've all heard a number of ideas for the rebuild of Christchurch. Now Northland-based company Ecopod Structures has some ideas of its own.
Ecopod we see as a solution to the Christchurch housing need. It's a strong structure designed in New Zealand and will be made in Canterbury. It can go anywhere. It's a steel structure. It is designed to be fully independent of the grid, meaning solar power, a bioloo toilet, grey water processing, drinking water storage. So the idea is this can be built in 10 days and can be up and running independent of city services. So ideal for temporary housing, but also designed to be a permanent solution. Then it really evolved as a structure that would be ideal for batches or cribs, perhaps as they're called down here. For schoolroom purposes, it can be easily reconfigured into two schoolrooms, the basic house building. Certainly for Christchurch now, with offices having to relocate from the CBD, perfect for temporary or permanent buildings in this sort of location.
They wanted to design something self-sufficient that would not have to rely on a water supply. The pods are designed to withstand liquefaction and are relocatable.
Then it really evolved as a structure that would be ideal for batches or cribs, perhaps as they're called down here. For schoolroom purposes, it can be easily reconfigured into two schoolrooms, the basic house building. Certainly for Christchurch now, with offices having to relocate from the CBD, perfect for temporary or permanent buildings in this sort of location.
And as for the toilet issue,
this is a product that is supplied to us by a manufacturer, Bioloo. This is a state-of-the-art, the latest modern toilet. It's not a chemical toilet, it's a composting toilet. It looks just like a normal toilet that's connected to the mains, but it uses air instead of water to get rid of what you put in it. There is no odor. It requires servicing every 2 to 3 years based on a family of 5 using it regularly, and it really produces compost just as you would have from your garden waste. So all the kitchen scraps can go into this if the owner chooses to do that. So we think this is a terrific solution. No odor, very aesthetically pleasing, and again can be a permanent feature.
Well, duck shooting kicked off over the weekend, and with 2 incidents there are now calls for stricter rules.
The first weekend of the duck shooting season has got off to a bad start. Waiuku farmer Philip Eric Bright died after he was shot by his brother while they were duck hunting over the weekend. He was hunting with a group of people southwest of Auckland when his brother accidentally shot him. The accident happened on Saturday, the first day of the duck hunting season. An autopsy will be done today and police have not ruled out pressing charges. Duck shooting is a huge tradition in many rural areas, particularly around Canterbury. We spoke to Director of SAFE, Hans Creek, the day before the season started. He says changes need to be made soon and hopes some change will be seen this year.
Well, what we're doing this year is we're putting a lot of pressure on the Minister of Conservation, Kate Wilkinson, to initiate research into crippling rates in New Zealand. Because all the research that's available is from overseas, and it's really easy for dog and for fish and game to say, oh, well, it doesn't happen in New Zealand. But we know it does, because there's no difference between shotgun shooting in New Zealand or overseas. So we say, well, if you think it's okay, do the research and you'll see. But so far, dog and fish and game both refuse to carry out research into crippling rates, because clearly they don't want to know what's going on, because if it's really bad, it may well spell the end of duck shooting in New Zealand.
The Director of Fish and Game New Zealand said duck shooting accidents were rare, but Hans says they want to see more of a reaction from the government.
Well, the Minister of Conservation is getting advised by Fish and Game on these matters, and Fish and Game is a pro-hunting group. So it's a crazy situation, because the pro-hunters are clearly not going to look into the welfare issues, because they know that they're going to be serious. So far we haven't had much luck at all with the government, and we really want that to change. We want them to look at the research, because, hey, if they think everything is fine, well, then the research will bear that out. But we know that it's not going to be, and I think they know as well.
So what else would you like to see happen?
Well, there are a number of other issues. We obviously want duck shooting banned, but as long as it's allowed, we think there should be much better rules surrounding duck shooting. For instance, we believe that duck shooters should have compulsory training, so that, for one, they can prove that they can actually shoot and reasonably aim at an animal and kill it better than what they do now. But also that they can identify the species, because every year you will have protected species and non-game bird species being shot by hunters. We've been out on the water a lot and we found those birds. So that's one thing. And another thing that should happen is we should stop letting young people go out hunting. Because at the moment you can take your 5-year-old out shooting, and here we have these little kids aiming these heavy shotguns and basically doing target practice on live animals. That's just completely abhorrent, and that should never happen. And also, these kids can't make up their own mind whether what they're doing is ethical or whether they should be doing it. So we believe that under 16-year-olds should never be allowed to go out shooting.
On the same day that Philip Bright was shot, a 24-year-old duck shooter in Southland is alleged to have caused a bar to empty when he pointed a shotgun at another man. Although no shots were fired, the man will appear in Invercargill District Court today.
If you want to keep fit and your gym is out of action, don't give up.
Well, I suppose with the quake happening, all the gyms in town kind of just disappeared, and so I just wanted to do something that was about getting people out and exercising, because it was such a challenging time for stress and all that, and I got lots of emails from people saying, can we do something? So I kind of just thought, well, bugger it, I'll create an outdoor exercise thing. So at Hagley Park, and we did it at St Barnabas Church as well, and it was just team training, and I really tried to keep it being social, achievable for everybody, and really fun. And and it was really successful. It was great. We had like 70 people to sessions and stuff, so yeah, it was really cool.
So how can people, since you've finished those, how can people keep fit during this time?
I think there's a couple of things we need to think of. I think the first thing is we've got to change expectations around our lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Like all of us know the stress of living in the city right now. Like travel is a little bit harder. Everything gets a little bit harder just because of the way the city's changed. Mm. So first thing we need to do is change the expectations around what we're doing and the pressure we put on ourselves around exercise. So in the past, let's say you were doing up to an hour's exercise a day or every couple of days, but now you lose half an hour in traffic. be easier on yourself and just say half an hour is okay, because I think what happens is that people pull away from exercise, they feel bad about themselves, but that leads to inaction. So ultimately what we're trying to do is just keep exercise in some way in your life. So the first thing is just remove any expectations around pressure on time, because life is just harder right now, and then just go to the things that you know work. So if you've got a walking group of friends, or if you like going to the gym for classes, or if you like running or cycling, try to find ways to do it that's not going to be stressful as well. In this moment of time, it's just about making it as easy as possible on yourself. So it's not even about the thing you do, it's just about getting out and doing something.
So why should we be exercising? Why should we keep it up?
How long's a piece of string? I suppose the big thing is that for me right now is that it's one of those times when we go to stress, you can either go to a destructive way to de-stress, or you can go to a healthy way to de-stress. And a lot of people, like I was speaking to a friend of mine who's a policeman, he was saying how domestic violence has gone up because people are drinking more, and so in that way, that's a destructive way to de-stress. And what we do know is that exercise is a really healthy way to de-stress, and especially if you actually do it with friends and with your mates, because that way you can also just release some emotion around, can talk or just have that kind of experience that you're sharing together.
Coming up after the break, a chocolate bus on the move and your weather for the week. Welcome back. The restoration of heritage buildings will be calling for some hard decisions, as architect Stuart Ross told Canetta Knight on City Life.
Well, so far our involvement has been curtailed a little bit because of the activities of the recovery process itself. I think, what we've got to understand is this sort of recovery from the point of view of architecture and building is probably not going to be as quick as we'd like it to be. So I think patience is going to be something we're going to have to show. We did have quite a lot of heritage buildings that we were working on, particularly after the first quake. But as you're probably aware, as most people are aware, a lot of those buildings probably don't even exist anymore. And some of them we haven't even been able to get in to see them yet. Right.
Can our heritage buildings be restored to their former glory?
I think we've got to make very careful decisions about that. I don't think we can just say across the board every old building has to be restored, because I think financially we're just not going to be able to do it. I think we're going to have to be very selective. We're probably going to have to say, okay, that building, be it, and I won't name buildings, but most people are aware, the cathedral is obviously going to be one, the arts centre buildings are probably going to be another group of buildings. There's going to be some buildings that we probably as a community are going to say it is important to put that one back the way it was. And those are going to be the icons of Christchurch. And I think it's up to us to decide that. There are no rules. We make the decisions on that. Yeah. Sorry, we make the decisions whether we keep those buildings or not. But I think that's probably the likely scenario, right?
The teams from She Chocolate Cafe in Governor's Bay have taken to the road to spread a little sweetness to Christchurch workers relocated after the quake. We caught up with them when they swung into CTV's new offices.
The double-decker London bus is hard to miss, and the treats inside look hard to resist. In the weeks straight after the earthquake, the She Chocolate team took the bus and a smaller van to affected areas, community events and relief workers, giving away hundreds of litres of hot chocolate. The cafe itself reopened in March, and now they've rolled on with a new plan, visiting areas where businesses have relocated and there are not many cafes for workers to choose from. They're selling savoury food as well as plenty of chocolate.
Before we were doing a tour around the city, which of course is not possible anymore, and we were absolutely pleased to provide the service with our chocolate after the quake. And now we're finding another way of providing our service and just bringing that uplifting spirit of chocolate and message for humanity to the public in whatever possible way we can do that, while we're still also being a chocolate business.
They've been pleased by the response.
It's quite incredible, the bus, she's amazing because she gets so much different reactions. She brings out the best in people and brings a joyous spirit, and it's always loving and good,
But for now it's all aboard and on to the next stop.
Now, let's take a look at your weather. Here's Sasha.
Hi everyone, I hope you had a fabulous weekend. A northerly airflow developed over Canterbury today, bringing low cloud to the region. It was a bit of a cool day with highs reaching just 13 or 14 degrees. Cloudy in Kaikoura with light northeasterly winds keeping temperatures low. 14 is your high, down to 9 degrees overnight tonight. Extensive low cloud morning and night for Hanna, but this may break a little during the afternoon. Winds are mostly light and you're looking at a high of 14. Cool northeasterly winds and low cloud over North Canterbury. 9 degrees overnight tonight with a high of 14 tomorrow. Low cloud over Christchurch for most of the day. Cool northeasterly breezes allow for a high of just 14 tomorrow. Nine degrees overnight tonight in Ashburton. Low cloud in the morning will break a little during the day. Northeasterlies and a high of 14. Timaru sees extensive low cloud morning and night, however this may let up a little during the afternoon, allowing for some sunny patches. We see northeasterly winds and a high of 14. Taking a look to other areas now, it's a cloudy day for everyone with highs at 13 or 14 degrees, a fraction warmer there in Greymouth with 15, few showers expected there in the afternoon. Temperatures down to 9 or 10 degrees overnight tonight. So what can we expect over the next few days? Mostly fine on Wednesday with low cloud morning and night, sunny periods by day and freshening northeasterlies. Some drizzle patches are expected Wednesday night. Thursday is mostly fine with sunny periods, high cloud and light northerly winds. That's your weather everyone, thanks for joining me.
That's CTV News, I'm Rob Cope-Williams.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.